Lawmakers demand answers about why sensitive military information was disclosed on a messaging app. Next, more on the fallout and how the Trump administration is responding. In Oklahoma, reporting a rise in measles cases. We'll break down how many and if Arkansas health leaders are seeing any cases in the natural state.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News at Noon.
Thanks for joining us for your 5 News at Noon. I'm Morgan Wrigley here with meteorologist Stephen Elmore on a pretty nice Wednesday. Stephen was just making fun of me because I was saying it was horrible outside this morning. It wasn't that cold. It felt cold to me.
Once you have a few warm days in a row, one cold morning can be a bit uncomfortable.
It felt below freezing. It was 47
earlier
degrees.
She said it was worse than the snow that we had.
I think it was.
It was only 45 degrees-ish, I think, where she was at. But, you know, for some folks, might need that light jacket
Everyone's
out.
different.
I think it's fine this afternoon, though. Lots of sunshine and temperatures eventually warming up into the upper 70s. We'll have some 80s out there for today as well once we get into the late afternoon, early evening hours. Overall, I'd say it's really nice for today. Lots of sunshine, not too bad. We did have that cold front that passed through yesterday, so that's why it might have been a little bit on the cooler side for this morning. Active pattern, though, kicks off really the rest of this week and going into the weekend. What I mean by that is that we just have multiple rain chances. Really, they're low chances, but Friday we could see a little bit more in the way of some rainfall. And then this upcoming Sunday, of course, we have that storm chance back into the forecast. You look outside, no matter where you are, seeing plenty of sunshine across the river valley this morning. What you had was a lot of cloud coverage, maybe a few spotty showers if you were up early enough. That was associated with that cold front that started to stall out just a bit. Overall, no, that we're seeing lots of sunshine by the time we get to this afternoon, and temperatures warming up significantly. Here's a look at where we'll finish off for today. I think upper 70s across northwest Arkansas. Maybe a few of us reach into the low 80s, but where you'll find those low 80s is definitely going to be across the river valley for today. Lots of sunshine. I think over the next couple of days, it's going to be really nice. Friday, though, that's when we have a better chance of some more of those scattered showers. Of course, we'll talk about the storm chance for the weekend coming up.
Thanks, Stephen. Well, the fallout continues from President Trump's national security team's discussion of a military operation over a non-government approved messaging app. The Atlantic has published new details from the text received by the magazine's editor-in-chief, who was mistakenly added to the group chat. Natalie Brand has the latest.
There were no sources, methods, locations, or war plans that were shared.
Members of President Trump's national security team returned to Capitol Hill Wednesday, where Democratic lawmakers are calling for accountability as new details emerge about the group chat they were a part of discussing a U.S. strike on Houthi rebels.
Everyone here knows that the Russians or the Chinese could have gotten all of that information, and they could have passed it on to the Houthis, who easily could have repositioned weapons and altered their plans to knock down planes or sink ships.
The Atlantic originally reported their editor-in-chief was inadvertently included in the group chat on Signal, an encrypted but non-government approved messaging app. This morning, The Atlantic published a follow-up showing messages from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sent shortly before the strike included the operational timeline and type of aircraft that would be used.
The magazine says it chose to reveal more details as the president and top administration officials insist classified information was not shared.
It wasn't classified information.
Nobody's texting more plans.
There should be an investigation.
CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograt says typically operational plans about upcoming strikes are always classified.
If it's exploited by a foreign adversary or by a bad actor, that could put U.S. service members in harm's way, and also just gives insights into how the U.S. government is thinking about conducting military operations.
The White House press secretary responded to the New Atlantic article, contending the magazine has conceded these were not war plans, and she called the story a hoax. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, a Fayetteville woman who pleaded guilty in connection to an overdose death last year now knows how long she'll spend behind bars. Christy Cowwood will spend 39 years in prison for the death of Cody Feasel. She pleaded guilty to a long list of charges, including aggravated death by delivery. Prosecutors say Cowwood was the one who sold fentanyl to Feasel. Prosecutors say they were able to figure that out after accessing text messages between the two. She was arrested and drugs were found where she lived with her 2 children. And we're also learning that a man who was convicted for charges related to the death of Pea Ridge officer Kevin Apple is now pleading not guilty in a separate case. Elijah Andazola was arrested again last month after police say he broke into a Rogers home and assaulted his pregnant wife. He's facing multiple charges, including aggravated residential burglary and third-degree assault. Andazola, who was previously accused of being an accomplice to capital murder alongside his co-defendant Shauna Cash, ended up pleading guilty to amended charges. Court records show Benton County prosecutors reopened the cases against him and filed a petition to revoke his probation. He's expected back in court next month. And meanwhile, the Oklahoma Department of Health is reporting a rise in measles cases. Today, the state says it found 7 more cases of the disease among unvaccinated people in northeastern Oklahoma. They say all of these cases are linked through exposures to their household or extended family, and they found no additional public setting exposures. But this comes as Texas deals with its own outbreak. There are now more than 327 cases in the western part of the state. The symptoms of measles include high fever, a runny nose, red, watery eyes, a cough, and a rash. Health officials warn it can be highly contagious and dangerous for the unvaccinated. There have been no confirmed cases in Arkansas. Well, the Fayetteville Police Department is taking action to prevent gun violence with the help of a new grant. The $30,000 grant will support community outreach, provide gun locks, and teach firearm safety. While Fayetteville isn't known for high crime rates, the department emphasizes that one violent crime is too many. The department has received this grant before and will continue building strong relationships through events like National Night Out. Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin rejected a proposed ballot title that would reform the state's rules over voter initiatives. That ballot title, proposed by the League of Women Voters, would have simplified the signature collection process when it comes to ballot initiatives and would introduce new rules for referendums and emergency clauses. The Attorney General says the proposed name and ballot title of the proposal is too vague, saying these ambiguities prevent me from ensuring that your ballot title is not misleading or substituting a more appropriate ballot title. The League of Women Voters says it's disappointed by the decision, but they plan to resubmit the proposal to AG Griffin, saying our dedication to preserving and enhancing direct democracy in Arkansas remains unwavering. Over-the-counter sales of ivermectin, an anti-parasitic drug, are now permitted in Arkansas after the governor signed it into law this week. Interest in human use of ivermectin grew when people began taking it to prevent or treat COVID-19, despite the FDA and other health agencies warning against it. The Arkansas measure allows the human use and over-the-counter sale of ivermectin without a prescription or without a consultation from a healthcare professional. Well, with rapid growth comes a rapid demand for housing in Northwest Arkansas. Now we're getting a look at a new report that shows home sales increased more than 14% over the last year. The Skyline report for the second half of 2024 was released and details how even with high interest rates as well as high mortgage rates, people are still buying homes in Northwest Arkansas. The average price of a home in Benton County is almost $450,000. $400,000 in Washington County. The report also says the region's real estate market is trending the opposite of the national market, causing smaller communities to run into issues.
Smaller cities are running into infrastructure problems, so they can't generate as much housing construction and new homes as we've seen in previous years because they're running into water and sewer capacity issues.
The data shows this was the third highest amount of home sales since the report started 2 decades ago and the highest amount of new construction homes. The nation's infrastructure report card is out, and it highlights a major need for major improvements, including infrastructure, which got a C. 8 of the 18 segments showed improvement. The authors credit the billions spent as part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill passed for that. The areas that underperformed tend to have large gaps in funding needs and also need to build toward better resiliency against severe weather. The report also shows that the nation's ports and railways scored the highest, while the roads and the dams are among the poor performers. Well, there's something new to worry about in and around Palisades and Eaton fire zones. Experts say pools left abandoned and burned out neighborhoods could breed tens of millions of mosquitoes and spread disease. In short time, experts say pools in the fire zones have turned into natural ponds, full of dirty, murky, stagnant water, perfect conditions for mosquitoes to grow. They're worried about more than 1,200 swimming pools in the Eaton fire burn area alone, maybe 1,400 more nearby, also filled with ash and debris.
Swimming pool can breed up to 1 million mosquitoes or grow up to 1 million mosquitoes in 1 month. So with thousands of swimming pools in that area, we think that it could be a significant increase.
He says the property owners can arrange with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to drain or remove pools. In the short term, the district will apply pest chemicals to try to control mosquitoes for up to 90 days.